Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Death By, where contestants will earn points for their arguments for a chance to stand on top of the podium pedestal. I am your host, Lauren Kalil. Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. On today's episode, we have a stacked group. We have the Chief Executive Officer over at Matt Fraser's training camp, HWPO, Matt O'Keefe. CrossFit Games team athlete, Dex Hopkins, with a nice little shoe game and some Reese's Puffs behind him.
Snacks.
Gotta love the snacks. The owner and head coach of Underdogs Athletics, also former musician and has a great little background there, Justin Kotler. Gotta have your coffee. And an affiliate owner, CrossFit analyst, who, by the way, wants us to remind you that he has won this game 3 times. Chase Ingram with Get With the Programming.
That's right. Coming.
Here we go, boys. Let's play Death By. With their recent announcements of cuts at the games, there has been a lot of controversy. Now, some people say that it's more exciting with fewer athletes to allow for more interesting programming. Others, they hate the cuts, and they think the athletes who qualify for the games should be able to participate in every test. So, should we just eliminate cuts and have fewer athletes qualify for the games? Why or why not? 60 seconds on the clock. Matt O'Keefe, we're going to let you send it first.
Well, thank you. Cuts are a part of sports. I think that often we run into this in our space with, I think our fans and consumers are a little less connected to other sports. I don't know a sport that, there isn't a measuring mark along the way that, weeds out and gets the best athletes on the floor for finals. I mean, track and field, golf. You could go down the list. There's just, it's just a part of sports. I don't really understand what the debate is. It's been communicated ahead of time, which I think may have been the biggest part of the pain prior was that it was a surprise when an athlete arrived at the games. It's been briefed ahead of time. You got to play harder. Really, at this point. I think that's it makes it more exciting at the end. It gets the right people competing against each other, racing against each other at the end for points. There's no surprises at that point. I think it's the right way to go about it.
Play harder. Dex, is this something that you think as an athlete should be the case?
100%. I think, and taking other sports out of it, because I feel the same way as O'Keefe does. Football has playoffs. Every other sport has golf. You have to make a cut to make any money. For sure, and that's the most likened sport to us, I think, is golf, aside from the massive amounts of money. But this is not a new thing. If you think back 2013, 12, Chase, how many people they took to regionals is ridiculous then, right? It was 60. and not everybody got to compete on Sunday because they had a cut, right? And that's regionals way back when it was I called those years the fireman and house mom years, when you had a little extra time, you could do more than class, you could probably go to the CrossFit Games. It's the sad truth, but it's I love it. I think it does, consumer wise. Sundays are way more exciting. There's less people. It makes it easier to follow as a story, because I know these people are in the hunt, they're in the fight, and honestly, in the Coliseum, it's going to fill that thing up for every heat rather than just the last one when people trickle in to go get their beer, the pretzel, whatever it is. So
the beer and the pretzel. Chase, what are your thoughts?
Well, as someone who has been cut at the CrossFit Games before, I don't care about the cut. So the nature of sports the index we're talking about, but I want to shift back to the original question, was should we take less? I'm going to say yes. As a casual fan, tell me who got cut before the cut to 30. Give me the last 10. What name did they make for themselves at the CrossFit Games last year? All right. I didn't think so. So, hey, let's just bring 30, but keep the 30. I get it. Cuts are part of sports, but if we're going to do something consistent, like you guys said, let's keep 30. Let's run the test Thursday to Sunday and see what they got. But then you got to look back. It's maybe we need to improve some other things. Maybe we need to improve the strength of fields system, the way we allocate spots to other semifinals, make that super exciting. And then our big cut is to get to the CrossFit Games. And I'll leave 10 seconds for Justin if he needs.
No.
Drop the mic. Oh boy.
Battle
He is
rap.
coming
Battle
in
rap
with,
now.
yeah, with vengeance. He
Here
wants to
comes
take
the
another win.
opposing opinion right now. Come on, Colin, do it.
All right, Justin, we always rely on you for the strong argument. What are you thinking here?
I'm going to push back a little bit on the golf comparison, simply because think of how many tournaments there are in a year for golf. So, you miss a cut one week, you can go the next week, and then you can make the cut. So that's a little tough. I'm not as opposed to cuts as I've been thinking about it as I originally was. But my thought process is I like 40 to start out the games. It allows us to have representation from all over the world, which I think is important for the growth and visibility of the sport. I think cutting to 30 after Saturday night is the right move, kind of like it was last year. Then the majority of the field gets to compete in 75% of the test. But then the cuts provide us with drama, cool storylines, with strategy, especially with athletes on the bubble. And it allows CrossFit Games HQ to do some different, interesting things with the programming on the final day with 10 less athletes. So that's the way that I feel about it. I think you can have cuts, but I like the cuts on Saturday night so that the majority of the field gets the majority of the test.
Okay, so quick follow-up question. I think Chase mentioned potentially having 30 athletes to qualify for the games. If there was a magic number to send to the games and there were not going to be any cuts, what is that number that you each would like to see?
Somebody here spoke of it best as, the bottom 10 every year is not, there's no real story around that group. And you could argue that a lot of those people are coming from, subpar regions. So it's a tough thing for CrossFit to work through, honestly, because you want to globalize the sport. You want to give people the opportunity to be on the big stage, like the Olympics. It's not much different than that. But yeah, I think a number of 30, maybe even a little less, is probably a great one.
Yeah,
Does anybody think only 15 should be sent to the games?
No, that's too low.
You need
That'd be a bloodbath.
Yeah, you need movement, and I still think 20 is just not enough when it comes to moving and shaking on the leaderboard, especially when we look at programming, which I know will come up a little bit later. But the drama that unfolds should be done by the athletes. Even Dave had said that about programming at times, and Boz has said that it shouldn't really be about the events that are taking place, but what the athletes are doing with the events that they're given. And the more athletes we have taking those tests, I think provides the drama that we do want to see at the CrossFit Games and that we do get at the CrossFit Games. And 20 is too few in my opinion, but seeing 30 where those bottom tiers that we say is like, oh, the bottom 10 are going to shake up. No, the bottom 10 of 40 are not, but in those 30, I think we can have some specialists in there that have an effect on the top 10 placing on the leaderboard.
I think,
and if you look at other
I was
going to say, if you look at other sports like you guys talked about, like Matt and Dex talked about before, if you look at the other sports like track, like golf, et cetera, they start with massive fields and they cut down. So that lends itself to the argument of having more athletes to start out and then having the cuts. So I think, having the 30 to 40 athletes, especially when we're talking about athletes from around the world, we want to make sure there's visibility and growth globally. I think it's super important that we have more athletes to start the weekend. And then if we need to have cuts, that's fine later on in the weekend. But I think it's important when we talk about the professionalization globally of the sport.
You remember the drama that used to come out of people having to be top 3, not top 5, right? Those bubble people. And then that story led into the next year. And then leave it at 30, go back to top 3 at every semi, whatever. I hope we stay in that system, but say they change it. Top 3. And then that allows 30 is a good number. I agree with that, but it allows for the home run hitters, like Chase is saying. Later in the weekend, there are people that can steal points from people, make those wedges to where, you can hear Chase get fired up on a Sunday where there's, hey, this person needs 8 people between them and stuff like that. So it leaves those people in there that are able to steal points and move up and shuffle the leaderboard up, which just, again, makes it more fun to watch.
If you do all that, are you ending this or? I was going to say, if you do, okay, go ahead. You're in charge.
Mute.
You're in charge.
There's the button. We need the button.
I know. Somebody send me a mute button.
Yeah.
I like it though. We were really fighting for points in there at the end of round 1. Guys, Chase has got a target on his back. He has 5 points at the end of round 1. What are you letting him do? We have Dex right behind him, 4 points. Matt O'Keefe, he tried to earn himself a little point at the end, but I cut him off. 3 points. Justin Kotler, 3. We're moving to round number 2. We'll see what happens.
The audience are like, what are you letting me do? You got the button.
That's exactly right.
Chase is reading from a teleprompter.
Chase has a good mic and a teleprompter. Who typed a question mark?
Oh.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
He's got the lawyer notepad there.
I stole it from my wife.
On to topic number 2. CrossFit. They just announced a version of the Benchmark Helen. It would be programmed at the games for individuals, age groups, and adaptives to give us a little taste and a preview of what's to come in Madison. But when it comes to a retest, what past CrossFit Games event would you like to see repeated? Chase, I borrowed this from you and Get With The Programming, so I think it would only be appropriate to let you lead this round.
All right, I'll say what I've said before, and if you guys have heard that, it's going to be nothing new, but I'm a huge fan of the climbing snails. The first time we saw the sand drum make its way to basically the soccer field at the StubHub Center back in 2016, I think the pig can sit on the sideline for maybe a couple years. We've had that enough. I want to see the snail come back, as well as the half ropes that they had, where it's part legless, part running. You can do this event at the North Park field. It's exciting to watch. It's fresh. It's about 7 to 8 years removed from something like that. We're bringing old, new. And I just think it's one of those events that'll be fun to watch from a spectator standpoint. So bringing the climbing snail back with a new field of athletes to see if they have improved. And I feel like the field is also set up that you can make it a very visually stimulating event at the same time with that snail moving its way down the field. So climbing snail, my pick to repeat.
That wasn't a
Kotler,
workout.
what would you like to see?
That was an implement.
It was called climbing snail. The event was
Take
called
his
climbing
points,
snail.
Lauren. Take his points. Take him out.
No, you
Drop him
take
to
one
3.
from away. Well, you take one away from that. That's what the event name was called.
Whoa.
Snail. Yeah. Tell me I don't know my history.
Justin Kotler, you have the floor.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Mute everybody else.
Yeah. Good. This one's a no-brainer to me. Last year, we saw CrossFit Games that had an incomplete story, and that was alpaca. The rain caused those legless rope climbs to be taken out, and I guarantee you the top 10 and the top 3 would have looked different. And I think everyone wants to know how people would do on the real alpaca. So that to me is without question the one that needs to be redone. And I'm not biased at all on this one.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Nope. I'm not biased at all. Nope. I'm not going to say that Ricky would have won the games if he would have left those in, but that's okay. You know what I mean? I'm just going to.
How much sleep have you lost after alpaca changing?
That broke my heart, to be honest. Yeah. That workout went from a legless rope climb workout to a kettlebell sled workout, which essentially changed the whole entire vibe of the workout and the leaderboard. You would have seen it flip-flop completely. So yeah, that's been a tough pill to swallow. So I would love to see it so that I am actually vindicated in my mind. Yeah.
Well, they did the O course in the rain that year. Do you remember that? It was raining that whole day almost. And so that was crazy to me that they switched it. Just that in my brain. But
yeah. So anyway.
Matt O'Keefe, you're up.
Well, first of all, I love what they announced yesterday. That's awesome. Connecting back to average people like myself, things that we can do and compare ourselves against people that register for the Open is amazing. Honestly, it's a great way to connect people to the sport better. For me, on a repeat, I'd love to see the burden run again. That is one of the greatest workouts ever programmed in CrossFit history. It was visually amazing. Obviously, the venues changed, but man, what a great test that was. The top two for me, again, were that or Murph. Honestly, I'd love to see those guys, see how we progress with them or add things to them. Any CrossFit workout for that matter. I think, on the front end, what I said, connecting back to the average CrossFitter is super important. But the burden run, easily, if not the best, one of the best workouts ever programmed at the games.
Dex, what do you want to
Okay.
see programmed and then go do yourself?
One, Helen there's no chance that's just going to be regular Helen. It's just 400-meter repeats at that level. Zero chance. It is literally just running kettlebell swings. I don't want to see that judged. That'd be a shit show. But the most visually stimulating, it doesn't matter the venue. I'd even more so vote for this one because of the venue change in Madison. The killer cage, thinking of new equipment we have, new implements. You could change the movement from 225 front squats, which I still think would be an awesome thing. But I remember that may be the reason I kept doing CrossFit, is seeing Elizabeth Akinwale, Spieler, Josh Bridges, those people, Chad McKay, do that killer cage traverse. Dan Bailey crushed it that year. I mean, who could go down? You're athletic enough to do something that is we touch every day in a pull-up bar, but that implement and the skill and adaptability and just like the grassroots of what this thing is, the unknown, unknowable XYZ stuff. And you can go find that at a playground. And so, like O'Keefe was saying, it connects to folks that can go out and find it. So killer cage, 100%.
All right. Good. At the end of round 2, some good ideas there. Chase still leads the way with 7 points.
On your ass.
But Dex Hopkins, he's nipping at his heels right now on that 400-meter repeat run.
Bro.
Matt O'Keefe with 5 points. Justin Kotler with 4. One more round. Potential for follow-up questions. Here we go. Topic number 3, scoring and points. They're always a huge topic of conversation surrounding competition and, of course, the CrossFit Games. Back in 2015, in the pegboard event, we saw several athletes earning points on the leaderboard, even though they couldn't complete any pegboards. Most recently, we saw a similar scenario at semifinals with the ring muscle-up complex, where athletes earned points, even though they completed 0 burpee box jump overs, the movement that was required to earn a score. Love it or hate it, should 0 reps equal 0 points? And if not, is there a better alternative? We are going to let Matt O'Keefe start this round.
Well, 0 points for 0 work, I couldn't agree with more. And I know that historically has played out in CrossFit Games, even champions in the past, particularly with the pegboard. I think that at that level, you should be able to do what's presented to you to some extent. You shouldn't be standing on the field. If that's the case, then you don't meet the standard. So, I think that this also ties into, overall scoring. If you have 40 athletes there, maybe 30 is the lowest score, point total or whatever, the lowest amount of points you can get. And then those last 10 don't get points. But yeah, if you can't do work, I know this ties into all the stuff we've talked about with, minimum standards, the trying rules and all that other stuff. I think that minimum standards could be important as we trend forward. I know it's a slippery slope about, people gaming and things like that, or if there's an injury, do we let them continue? But if you can't do work, I don't think you should be awarded a point.
Kotler, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I have no problems with 0 points for 0 reps. But I think when we get to this stage of the CrossFit Games, I guess my question would be, I think it's important that we're not just looking at this as testing to find the fittest person in the world. I think we're also looking at this as entertainment. And is it fun for the spectators to sit there and watch people who can't do a rep of something? So at that point, my question is it now a programming or is it an athlete issue? I mean, we've seen, like Matt just mentioned, we've seen CrossFit Games champions in the past sitting there staring at something, not being able to do it, and then purposely not doing it, and then ending up winning the games because of it, right? Where if it was at semifinals, they would have been kicked out for the not trying clause, right? So I think ultimately we need to make sure that we're looking at the programming, and we need to make sure that if we're going to have something that people haven't done yet, that they would introduce it a month before so that these people can practice it so it doesn't look stupid in front of the spectators.
Dex, you started chatting. What were you going to say off of what Kotler was saying?
No, I remember that year vividly, and it was like a joke. They were sitting there, did not like it as athlete, spectator, coach, whatever. But I think 0 points for 0 reps, I am down with that. Kicking them out like at semifinals, and then the disrespect stuff's a completely different story. But yeah, 0 reps for 0 or 0 points for 0 reps makes 100% things to me. And then I think there's also that trickles down, like Justin's talking about, there's accountability in the programming. I love progression, or even like this year we've seen with some regression stuff that makes people flex. Hey, did you do the basics? Did you have the prereqs to build up to this level? Or did we just, you're an athlete, you figure things out. So I don't mind those things, but I think there's a lot of accountability that comes out of, hey, you get 0 points for 0 reps. And the try hard thing is so subjective to me, or like so judgment call on whoever the judge is at that event, that I cannot stand it. Like, have a minimum work requirement, then it's very black and white. It's met or it's not. So then it's your job to program and facilitate those things. You can't pull something out of left field, throw people such a curveball that everybody's whiffing. And so, yeah.
Chase, love it or hate it.
0 reps for 0 work, or 0 points for 0 work. Absolutely, unequivocally yes. And you mentioned the 2015 games. Katrin Davidsdottir, along with 24 other athletes, got 54 points for doing jack shit, right? And that is why she won the CrossFit Games.
That's aggressive.
Well, you said, hey, we're saying what it is, right? For doing nothing, right? 25 people did nothing. They got 54 points for it. If they zeroed it out, guess what the top 3 would be at the 2015 games? Tia Toomey, Katrin Davidsdottir, and Cara Saunders would have got your top 3. Semifinals is different. Sydney Wells only got 2 points for doing no work, and she still qualifies. So is that a point system problem or a field problem? That's what I told athletes that were complaining about that on during that time. But here's it. Minimum work requirement, not for semifinals because of worldwide athletes, but for the CrossFit Games, needed, and scrap the spirit of the games rule.
Ooh, you fit a lot into that minute.
Working.
Oh,
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. I gave you a point on that one.
Okay. So follow-up question, and this gives people some opportunity to try to catch up in the double digits with Chase. Do you think that if an athlete at the CrossFit Games earns 0 reps for 0 points, that should eliminate them from being able to be on the podium?
No.
No, not from the podium.
If you can't beat them and they take a 0, you are not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a 0 and you still go on the podium, man, that would be pretty damn impressive. Yeah.
Well, Well, and that, like, there's been scoring systems in the past where, like, I mean, it used to be, Chase, I mean, you think of this. There used to be a system where you can lay an egg or 2 and still come back and qualify and go on. But I mean, so don't facilitate that. But I mean, if you are such a freak, you can lay an egg, a 0, and at the games, and then still. Yeah, you get up there and swing your flag around, go crazy, like Stone Cold Steve Austin some beers because you deserve it.
There was a worse.
When you look.
Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
That was Matt.
No, I'm Matt, actually. So no,
He got confused with the ginger beer, and he got confused. He's got 2 ginger beers over here. He wasn't sure
Hold on,
which
sorry.
one it was.
Yeah,
there we go.
There we go. There we go.
Make it even more confusing.
Sorry, you threw me off there. The debate that ensued after semifinals about this whole idea of people, should they try or not? I mean, think about the other side of that. Like, people, if I sit on my bar, how do I look? Am I proud of that? Like, I don't. I mean, we're running a professional sport, and at this point, it's like, hey, here's the test. And, if people, again, that's where we just set minimum standards and you take care of some of that stuff. If you're worried about people gaming the system, or figure out the point system around it. Maybe there's negative points for things like that. I don't know. I don't think that I just don't think that you I don't know a major sport that has a trying rule. And I think, people at CrossFit would agree with that now today too. It's just, you know what, if people want to sit around and do nothing and just win one workout, then that's the way they've set it up. That's the way it should be, honestly, or put minimum standards in.
It's an interesting question, because I will honestly tell you, in strategizing that workout, there were some athletes that if they had done the first round, taken the second round off, and then done the third round, they would have done better. They would have gotten more points. So my question to you is, what's the point? This is a sport. Isn't strategy part of trying? Are you trying to get the best score, or are you trying to try? Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to get the best score. I want to get the best score so I get the most points. If it would have made sense for me to go hard round one, get a bunch of burpees, then take round two off, and then go hard on round three and get a bunch of burpees, that's not my problem. That's your problem, the way you created the workout. And now I've just broken your workout. Like I've strategized enough to outsmart you. Now you're going to say it's not trying. I'm not going to say it's not trying. I'm going to say, actually, I'm smarter than you. I strategized better than your programming. And therefore now I've got a better score. So that's also the issue with the not trying rule, because sometimes strategizing is important and it's part of being a sport. It's not trying. So there's also, I think, some really gray areas there when we talk about the not trying rule.
Well, I don't even know if it's gray area. I think there's layers to it. Like athlete wise, if I know I'm not getting booted, and there's diminishing returns on me trying really hard for the show, right? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Chuck's going to come up to me and say, "Hey man, please try." I'm going to say, "Hey dog, I got one more round." Because Justin's exactly right. 25 burpees, a lot of people got on that first round, and then it just crashed and burned. But if I can repeat that after an interval of taking off, I can do my muscle ups, take my L in the middle, and then I could put up a 52. Maybe I finished really strong. I mean, I remember watching Colton Mertens in the West, destroy every round. And he still was, I think he beat everybody by 8 or something like that. I think the other guy one guy was close to him. But Justin's exactly right. Like playing the game. Yeah, Tetlow, that's it, Scott. Mm-hmm. So if I play the game, I have a coach doing his job, I athletically dissect this thing. That's exactly what Justin's saying, is that he's right. They have to not facilitate those things through the structure of the workout, through the rules, and through all this stuff, because I'd be stupid not to, especially if we're trying to get to the stage where I make money and I'm able to pay my bills and do this for a living. I'd be crazy not to play the game in that way.
Some really good conversation here, but that will wrap us up at the end of round 3.
Damn it,
man. Oh, y'all were so close, but Chase, he's just been sitting there in silence for the last 3 minutes.
He's just fixing his teleprompter for the final. He's getting it lined up.
We need to all check Lauren's Venmo account after this thing.
Honey, cue the topic.
DM.
Chase ends with 11 points. Right behind him, Dex, you tried really hard, 10 points. Justin Kotler, 9. Matt O'Keefe with 8. Chase, you have earned your 4th title. You will move on to Podium Pedestal. What do you want to talk about today?
I want to bring a Friday night light event under the lights outside the North Park Stadium. Enough of the Coliseum. The majority of the people that are there to watch it are missing out on some big things that happen in the Coliseum on those night events, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. Let's bring one back to the Friday nights. Let's kick it back StubHub Center style in the tennis stadium. Flip on the lights. Let's run an event at nighttime. Let's get the crowd out there and have a kick-ass time, Friday night light style, outside at the North Park field.
Maybe have some fireworks in the background too. I don't know if it's too late to
cage.
plan that, but
the killer cage was at nighttime.
Yes.
It was at nighttime. It was sick. We could keep the Watt bike out. We have a lot better implements and things to crush people with now. But like evolution wise, dude, that event would be insane for the things they could do with the monkey bars and then the implements they could put in on the North Park, under the lights. That's a pairing. See, we're both right. Somebody watch this.
You're missing.
Take it back.
You're missing the one component, which is you need lights, and that is not.
That is true. That's expensive. That is. And that's where we are, O'Keefe. Is you guys going to cover it, or are we going to light it, and we got to choose one?
Chase brings up a good idea. O'Keefe brings us back to reality.
You get likes, but the CrossFit Games podcast is going to cover the event.
That's it. That's it.
Exactly.
Brian Friend's
your
phone
people
is going to
start
be the live
planning.
stream.
No. He's going to use.
How's it look? How's
the
it
light.
look?
Yeah.
Like the
He's gonna use
90s.
the
That's how
flashlight
it looks.
under the lights.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I think you should.
looks like
I think you
it's
should
a
continue to score this past whomever is getting that last crack and deduct points if it's a silly idea like this. So you could.
We take it back.
Oh, keep
That's
actually
why.
won.
It wasn't a silly idea. It was just financially irresponsible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
there you go.
O'Keefe's the CEO and we're out here talking shit. O'Keefe does the financial.
Love it.
O'Keefe, Dex, Kotler, Chase, thank you guys so much for playing another game of Death by. We have one more week until we are in Madison, Wisconsin for the CrossFit Games. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We have all of our content on our YouTube channel, Instagram. We're going to have our predictions coming out very soon for both the men's field and the women's field. But until next time, from everybody at Talking Elite Fitness, I'm Lauren Kalil, and we'll see you back here.